Badram karnebi shrnuyama devaha Badram pashyemakshabiryajatraha Stirairangaihi tushtuvagam sastanubhihi Yashema devahitam yadayuhu Svastina indro vrdhashravaha Svastina pusha vishwavedaha Svastina starkshyo arishtanemihi Svastino brahaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Apparently Swami Dayananda said or even stressed to use the Om meditation only in combination with some other mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, not to use only Om unless you want to become a sannyasi. What do you think about that?
This is isolated to the Mandukyopanishad. And the reason why we invoke Om is because it includes all the devas and all the invocations. So it is like the default opener for any following mantra to come. So I do not know the order, what he meant in that context, but I also know that you can isolate in Mandukya specifically the Om as a meditation. But I also know that Om is always the default mantra before any mantra that comes afterwards.
Because to me it feels like so complete that I don't need any addition to it. It's like encapsulating.
Yes, because we have just gone through the teaching and we said that Om ultimately is the name that encompasses all names, all forms, all devas and devatas. So ultimately, when you come to the teaching, then you realize I don't need to put anything afterwards. Om is really just the ultimate mantra. You don't need anything after Om. So the teaching becomes simpler and simpler and simpler. It's like when you start the journey, you have so many complex things to do and so much actions to do. And then as you start to go through this journey longer and longer, less and less things. Your life becomes simpler and simpler. So less mantras, less invocations, and so on.
And how important is the inner picture of the whole universe arising and disappearing back into? It's like you have to actively do that the whole time, or it's kind of...
Yes. So it's a mental upasana. So you're engaging, that's a good question, your mind to actually visualize the universe or get a feel of it or get a sense of it. Some people are not visual. You get more of that, some kind of a sensation. Whatever it is, make it your own, as if you're a total being and that being is all pervasive, who you are. And from that being just arises, I say arises the physical universe, and the universe is sustained in your presence and it dissolves into yourself. So you are applying your mental capacity to get a sense of what that might be like. And I refuse to be specific. Otherwise, I'm going to, give you an image, but you need to do it and make it your own. And same thing with the subtle body when we do the meditation. So I really want you to learn the power of Om. Shan is so correct. You really don't need any other mantra afterwards. And the more you use it, especially when you put your mind into it, you start to see yourself less as this isolated individual, this small being. So the whole purpose of this mantra is not just to chant and chant and chant, how we do bhajans or something. We don't think about the words. But because Om is so short, it lets you apply so much teaching to that single syllable, right? I am the being in the physical, physical dwells. I am the being in whom the subtle dwells. I am the being in whom the causal dwells. And then another style, you can say, I am the being in whom all waking individuals right now are awake. I am the being in whom all dream individuals are dreaming. I am the being in whose all causal bodies dwell. I am that one being without the second. So it is the closest mantra that we have to put you in touch with your true nature through a practice. Even though who you are is knowledge, but this leads to that knowledge assimilated deeper and deeper and deeper. It cancels out that notion that I am a small, subtle body, small causal body, small physical body, and it expands you.
Another thing, would the mantra be more powerful if you would repeat it silently in your mind only?
So we initially start out with loud, and the reason why we do that is because our inner thoughts are loud. And so to cancel out those inner thoughts, you make your physical voice louder. That's why you say out loud. But as you progress through the mantra, maybe 1 year or 2 or 10 years, then you go into silent mode. So silent mode is always more powerful than verbal, out loud, but it's a lot harder. That's why when we do japa out loud, we do it out loud. Because, try doing the japa silently. It's not the same sensation.
For me, like when I use Om Namah Shivaya, it kind of strengthens duality because it's me and there's Shiva. And when I only use Om, it's more like the non-dual me kind of just resting in myself. And that feels...
Yes, so it really just, see, Nama, I am prostrating, Namaha Shivaya, Shivaya dative, I'm prostrating for Shiva. So at the same time, it's useful at the start, but ultimately I'm very aware from the tradition that you only come to Om. That's basically the final teaching, Om. That's your mantra. Okay. I want to congratulate us so far. We have completed Mandukyopanishad. And Mandukyopanishad is so profound that Gaudapada Karika has been written to provide the extensive nuances that have to be discussed. And so we're now entering Gaudapada Karika, chapter 2. And the purpose of chapter 2 is to show you that this waking world is mithya. So far, we all have no issue understanding that the dream is mithya, correct? Easy. Even a child who has never exposed themselves, it's just a dream. But the real issue is either you see, the waking world is satyam, that's problem number one. The waking world is satyam, but I am mithya. That's problem number one. The waking world that I see is satyam. It's independently real. It's true. But me, I'm just a being who's, going through times, dying, getting born. I'm mithya. So it's going to cancel that out. The second issue is that you think that the waker is satyam, and the world is mithya. You think that the individual consciousness, the individual being here is satyam. That's why I say, I am satyam. I am satyam, it's all mithya. It's almost like it gives away in a gesture form. I am satyam, it's all mithya out there. That's problem number 2. So we have to cancel this out and not get so caught up in the waking state, because the waking state is really most of where our delusion falls into. And that way we don't take it so seriously. We can still admire the waking state, but what's going to happen is he's going to show you the waking state has no reality whatsoever. So you can say goodbye to your waking state. Now on. In fact, do you really have to say goodbye to the waking state? If you understand that all that is here is Ishvara. No. So we're not saying goodbye to anything. There's nothing to say goodbye to. Even the word goodbye and my action of saying goodbye is none other than intelligence. Okay? Even if I try to project Ishvara onto a wall, that act of projecting is also Ishvara. So there's no point trying to project anything. Okay? So verse 4 starts out, this is chapter 2, verse 4. Objects are perceived in both states. So this is Gaudapada's argument number 1. Antah sthanat tu bhedanam tasmat jagrite smritam yatha tatra tatha swapne samvrta tvena bhidyate. As the different objects in the dream state are unreal, because they are perceived, for the same reason, the objects seen in the waking state are also unreal. Therefore, unreality of objects is accepted for objects in waking state as well. However, they differ because are confined within the limited space of the body. So that last sentence is the objection. Okay, so the basis of the verse, it says in both states, the waking and the dream, objects appear before you. Agree? Okay. So take a dream now. Dream city appears before you. Dream lion before you. Dream movement appears before you. Okay. So when you wake up from that dream, all of that dream line, dream movement, dream mountain, whatever it is, it's falsified immediately. You know from the waking state, it's all falsified. So what the verse is arguing now is it doesn't matter when the object appeared, in what manner it appeared, to whom it appeared, how useful that object was, how functional that object was, for what reason that object appeared. The point is, it appeared. It was perceived. That's the point. The point is, it was seen. So any object in the dream, no matter how convincing it is seen. When you wake up, the entire seen dream is falsified. Why? Because it was seen. So now the argument is, just like the dream, though appearing real while it was happening, in that same manner, the waking is just a series of seeing things. So what it's saying is, whatever you see at any time, at any place, at any state, for whatever reason, it is mithya. Are things seen right now? So whatever you're seeing thus is mithya. And when I say mithya, it has no independent reality. Very simple, isn't it? If it's seen, it is mithya. Simple. Will you see yourself one day getting enlightenment? If you do see yourself getting enlightenment, that thought is mithya. If you see yourself now having a doubt, that doubt is seen, isn't it? Mithya. If you see yourself one day going to a new world, or whatever it is, dying, that is seen, mithya. So the verse then argues, just because the dream objects, they are experienced, but they're falsified, okay? You cannot now say that the waking deserves the final reality because it's the same thing. It is experienced and it's falsifiable, though not by waking up. It's falsifiable how? Through a satya-mithya relationship. Okay, in other words, I can falsify something and it's not going to last once I cognitively falsify it. Can you falsify your awareness? Let's try real hard now to just, reduce your awareness into something else. Like, let's make awareness into something else. Is that possible? No way. Okay. So, the basis of his argument is both are thus mithya because they are seen. Is your deep sleep seen? from the standpoint of the waking? Well, it is. That's why you're relating to deep sleep. That's, if I say, do you sleep? You say yes. So in that moment, deep sleep was seen. Is your dream seen? Is the waking seen? So then what's the difference between the three of them if they're all seen? That's the argument.
Please, how do we see the deep sleep?
Can you see deep sleep?
No?
But do you sleep?
Yes.
I see. So in other words, you see deep sleep.
Okay, that is like seeing, like knowing, experiencing, or
Yes.
having.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. If I tell you, hey, you tired? You tired, Karen? Yes, I'm tired. Where are you going? I'm going upstairs. To do what? You're not going to dream. You're going upstairs to sleep, and you know it. So this means you must be already in touch with sleep. Thus, you see sleep in order to go to sleep. If you didn't see sleep, you wouldn't be going to sleep. You'll be going to a dream. Make sense? So what will you ever see? It's really funny when you just take this simple teaching. I will see something amazing in the future. I can hardly wait for something wonderful to happen, to find the love of my life. I'm going to see them. Mithya. So there's no such thing as true love, because true love is only in reference to a person. In fact, the only true love can be none other than that which is always true, which is your own self.
I don't want to hear this.
Think about this for a moment, what this means for you. Anything that I will ever see in the future or have seen in the past, me suffering, me going through a hard time, me going through a hard time now, or I will go through a hard time, or something's going to happen to me, or all those troubles and hurt that I've gotten before, and all the hurt that I'm yet to receive, sometime in the future, all the pain, all the family drama, all the, things in my own life, in the kids and at work and the boss and in the society, everything I will see. Let me use this to remind myself, if it's seen, it has no independent reality. It is as good as a dream. And while keeping that in my mind, I still, of course, have to attend to the waking state, in a proper manner, of course. So Shankara has a very interesting, look at Shankara's logic. I'm going to show you. This is his default logical framework. He starts out with, we'll call it Shankara logic. He starts out with a proposition. Proposition. What is the proposition he's making? He says, waking, or Gaudapada in this case, waking objects are unreal. It's actually Shankara's logic. He starts out, waking objects are unreal. Waking objects equals unreal. Remember, unreal doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means it's not independent. So mithya. So you start out with a statement. This is how logic works. So you want to convince me of something? Great. What is your claim? My claim is waking objects are unreal. Now what's going to come next? Well, reason. Let me give you the reason why. He says, because they are perceived or seen. Because perceived or seen. Okay? If I stop here, is the inquiry complete? Does it feel complete? Or your brain is going to say, prove it, demonstrate it, So next one, illustration. Illustration, he says, so he's comparing it like objects seen in a dream. Because they are seen just like objects seen in dream. Waking objects are unreal. Reason, because they are seen, continuing to complete the logic, just like objects are seen in a dream. So he's using the dream to at least open up a possibility for this statement. something that you can already experience or relate to. So he's bringing something that you relate to. And then he continues and gives you an application. That means, what's the application of this? He says, just as dream objects are false, though seen, so waking objects too are seen in the same way. Okay? Just as dream objects, false though seen, I think that's the main one, false though seen. I'll put this like that. In that same way, so waking objects too are false though seen. So too waking false though seen. How do you prove this part? So too waking false though seen. That's what we want to prove. So just as dream objects are false though seen, you can prove this by waking up, easy. So this part I can prove. But how will I prove so too waking objects are also false though seen? How do you prove that? You go back to what he made. Waking objects are unreal. Why? Because they are seen. When I dream, are they still seen? No. So therefore, because waking objects do not last forever, they are only there when I am in the waking state, they are seen though they are false. And what's the conclusion? Therefore, falsity is admitted of waking objects also. Right, falsity of objects also. Falsity of waking objects also. Why? Because we said what is real? That which is true in the past, present, and future. If you can negate it, it's not real. What is real? That which is non-negatable. I negate the waking state every single day by dreaming or sleep. Okay? So, the verse is correcting two errors that we make. Number one, it says, what I see in my mind is mithya, and what is out there is satyam. This is the error number one. What I see in here is mithya, and the world that I see out here, the waking world, is satyam. This is how we all think, isn't it? Before the tradition comes. Like the world is real. That's why we want to pursue objects, because everything's real. But here, this is just a bunch of thoughts that are coming and going. That's the first one. The correction is, out there is also mithya. Why is it mithya? Because it is seen. If it's seen, it's mithya. Because if it's seen, that means it appears in time. It wasn't there all the time. That means it's not absolutely true. Because absolutely true is that which is always true, every single moment. Okay? So that's the first error. And the correction. And the second one, it says, this is the big one. The error that my waking awareness is satyam, and the world out there is mithya. Oh, I am satyam, I am awareness. But when you say I am awareness, where is your locus of focus in that moment? Think about that. Be honest completely. I am awareness. When you say this, I am awareness, where is that? Like, how strong is your knowledge in that moment? Is it like everywhere, or it just goes, I am aware, right here? Yeah. That's the thing. So that's the bigger error, where my waking awareness is satyam, though I call it, right? I call it satyam, but it's not satyam. It's mithya also. Because it's cancelled out in the dream. And I'm using the word awareness here specifically. I'm not using state. I'm using awareness because how did Mandukyopanishad start? It starts out with dream awareness, waking awareness, deep sleep awareness, because we think this awareness in the waking is true. So for that reason, it's canceling out. It is not your waking awareness that is real. Waking awareness is true to the waking. Dream awareness is true to the dream. And deep sleep, you don't have to worry about that. You're not there anyway. So the analysis is really between now the dream and the waking. And therefore the correction is, even your waking conditioned awareness, even that is mithya. Now you're probably wondering, how do I resolve this now? Well, remember that thread? If I say to you, do you dream? You say, yes. Do you sleep? You say, yes. Are you awake now? How many times have you already been awake before? Is this the first waking you've ever had? How many times have you dreamt? How many times have you slept? So what does that mean? You are in and through all states in the past, in the present, and in the future. Because I can ask the same question tomorrow, and you also include this waking, this dream, and this sleep also, from the standpoint of tomorrow. So this means very simple. If it's all confusing, are you there in the three states? And you say, yes. And then I say, how do you know that? And you say, because the three states are changing, for sure, but to know about a changing state must mean there must be something unchanging. Because if I was as good as the waker right now, then I would have no connection to yesterday's waking state. It would be two different people. Think about that. But there is a connection. So that must mean there is some thread of continuity upon which these three balls of waking and dream are strung together, and there is something that pervades both of them, which is why when you wake up, you say, I dreamt. How do you know you dreamt? Because I was there. That means there was still something about me in the dream. And we also said the logic yesterday, if you were really the waker, then why do you go to sleep? Because you can't give up that which is intrinsic to you. Remember that? Sugar, sweetness can't be given up. But you gladly give up the waker, don't you? You gladly give up the dreamer, don't you? You gladly give up the sleeper, don't you? So that means they cannot be intrinsic to you. Someone coming to give you some, magical thing, some world you enter, whether it's seen by you or whether it's seen by someone else, and you didn't see it, and someone comes up to you and says, hey, look, I saw an incredible scene. I saw something amazing. But it's mithya.
Why should I give up gladly deep sleep?
Because if you were a deep sleeper, if you were that bliss in deep sleep, you would not give it up. You could not give up. Because you cannot give up what is intrinsic to who you are. Sweetness can never be given up away from the sugar. Or the sugar can never give up sweetness, because they're both so intimately connected. Fire can never give up heat. Water can never give up liquid. Maybe fire is a better example. Yeah? So now, if I can give something up, it means it cannot be who I am.
The first statement is that what we see is mithya because we see it.
Because it's seen, it's mithya, yeah.
Because it's seen. That somewhere gives me question mark, because I see it, it is mithya. I can understand this thing with the clay in the pot, but that's a different reasoning. So how this is connected? Being seen makes it mithya.
Because if it's seen, it means it depends on the seer. So if it requires the seer, then it's mithya, because it's dependent on something else. And it wasn't there before, was it?
The wood, the tree is also there when I don't see it. I don't know for sure, but it's the same reasoning as the deep sleep and It's not because I don't see it that it's not there.
See, even if you see the fact that you don't see something, even if you see or know
Yeah.
what you don't know, that's still seen, that's still a thought that comes before you.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just there a moment ago, it just appeared before you. Even that question you're asking, is that question seen by you?
Yeah, it's within the, yeah.
So that also makes it mithya, because it depends on time to appear.
Why make it so complex? Why just don't say all the things that you categorize an object is false?
Yeah, because we're looking at Gaudapada Karika, hard text. And I chose it deliberately to frustrate us all. You know, to like really stretch you to the maximum. So that after you go through this, everything will be so easy, it will be ridiculous. So you know.
Not convincing enough if you don't go through this.
Yeah.
We just categorize that, okay, all objects are false, you are still not convinced.
I follow the word false. It's not false, it's mithya. That's something else. No?
Yes.
But false is as it is not there, then it becomes a dream or illusion, but it's not.
No. Falsify. To falsify means it's not actually real. It's a cognitive process. If I falsify the pot, it means I recognize that in that moment it's the clay.
That's the way you use the word. Yeah.
Yes. So the words maybe need some clarification. Verse 6, the unreality of the waking state. Adau ante cha yatna asti vartamane api tattatha vitataihi sadrishaha santaha avitataha iva lakshita. Okay, so why is the word mithya? Okay. That which does not exist in the beginning and in the end is equally so in the present. Even though the objects seen in the waking state are unreal, being like illusions, such as mirage water, because they have no existence in the beginning and in the end. Still, they are ascertained as though they are real. Okay, so to simplify this, the basis of this verse is anything has a beginning, anything that has a beginning, and anything that has an end. What does that show you about that object? In between, if you look at that object in between. If it appeared and it's disappeared, then what about its life in between? What does that say about that? How real then was it?
Very real because it's seen.
It was seemingly real, seemingly, because it was never there to begin with, and it won't be there when it's ending. So whatever reality you give it while it lasts, it is as good as seemingly real. Like even a cloud, that's in a waking state. You're looking at a waking state cloud. A waking state begins, you suddenly see a cloud, and then a cloud ends. So what about that reality in between the cloud? How real was that? That was dependently real. It was bound to end. So let's take an example of your body, your waking state body right now. How real is your waking state body? We've already analyzed. We said, where is the body? Point, is your hand the body? You say, no, hand is a hand. Is your head the body? No, head is a head. But then when you collect the body, the head and the arm and the leg, then you have something called body. So you can't really find a body, even though you call it a body. You can't really find a harmonium. It's just really just keys plus wood plus some strings. You can't really find a flower. Find me a flower here. It's just basically a bud, break this apart and you put it on the table, like, where's a flower here? Okay? So it breaks down into something smaller. Another is your body right now is what we say conditionally real. Conditionally real means it depends on a condition. Now, what condition does your physical body depend on right now? You do have a physical body, don't you? You're wearing a physical body. Did you have this body in the dream tonight, yesterday or tonight? Were you? But how come you have this body right now? Because you were there in the dream and now you're not. The dream is gone, but you're still here. But you're wearing a different body. Last night you were wearing a dream body and now you're wearing a totally different body. How come? Because the body you're wearing is conditionally real. It depends upon the waking state to manufacture it. So what is the reality of your body right now then, if it's totally dependent on the waking state? You literally have to wait for the waking to come for the body to be seen. Then what reality does your body really have? It depends on time. It depends on the waking. It depends on the other two states being displaced, deep sleep being displaced, dream being displaced, and then the waking comes. Spirits are taking me. Are those spirits seen or felt or known? The answer is yes. If it's known, seen, heard, felt, sensed, it is not completely real. Therefore, relax. Take a deep breath in that moment and go, the sky, is it really blue? No. So now that I know the sky is not really blue, why do I still see blue? Because it is dependent upon laws of nature that I don't control. But I know it's not blue. It doesn't change the sky. So perception remains the same. My cognitive knowledge changes. The stars look small. Oh, let's go out. Have a romantic little night out. Let's look up in the stars, my darling. Look at those small fireflies, up there in the sky. Are they really small? That thing is bigger than our sun. It's going to blow you up. It's an atomic explosion happening up there. So what you see, though you appreciate it, it does not mean it's absolutely true. Verse 7, he's going to say, the waking objects, I'm not going to read yet. He says the waking objects, they fulfill a purpose. Like a waking cup is fulfilling a purpose of drinking. For that reason alone, it is more real than dream objects, because waking water satiates waking thirst. For that reason alone, it is more real than dream, because dream has no utility, has no function in the state. And Gaudapada is going to answer in verse 7. Sa prayojanata tesham swapne viprati padyate tasmat adi antavat tvena mithya eva kalu te smrtaha. Their usefulness of the objects of the waking experience is contradicted in the dream. Therefore, because they have a beginning and an end, they are rightly accepted as being unreal. Okay, so he's basically saying this. So this is the objector. He's saying that the waking state is more real. And he says, why? Because the waking objects have a better utility, have a higher order of utility or usefulness in the waking state. So therefore, the waking cup is more useful in the waking dream. For that reason, this cup is more real than the dream cup. Okay, that's the statement. And conversely, dream objects do not help me in this waking state. All right? The dream money that I've earned, I cannot use that in the waking, even though that would be cool, right? Therefore, that utility, that justifies saying that dream is mithya and waking is satyam. That's what the objector is saying. Now the counter, the Gaudapada responds and he says, wait, each has usefulness here and non-usefulness there. So what he's saying is the physical cup has usefulness in the physical waking cup has usefulness in the waking, but no usefulness in the dream. But then from the standpoint of the dream cup has usefulness in the dream and no usefulness in the waking. So now, if you look at it from both standpoints, the utility is common to both within their respective states. So neither can prove the other as more real or unreal. You understand? Depends on which standpoint you're looking at it from. So they both thus cancel each other out. Both the waking is useful as long as the waking lasts. The dream is useful as long as the dream lasts. But when the dream comes, it cancels out the usefulness of the waking. When the waking comes, it cancels out the usefulness of the dream. So then now, how can you say that one has more stronger reality than the other? Verse 9, the inner and outer consciousness within the dream. Swapna vrtau api tu antaha chetasa kalpitam tu asat, bahi chetaha grahitam sat drishtam vaitatyam etayoho. Again, within the dream, there seems to be a distinction between what is imagined inside by the mind, which is unreal, and whatever is perceived outside, earlier by the mind. I know it's confusing, which is real. But in reality, both are known to be unreal. He starts out like this: whatever is out there is real. And whatever is internal, so whatever is external is real. And whatever is internal, that means inside your mind, is unreal. It's mithya. But then Gaudapada objects that, and he says, both the outer and the inner are relative. Depends on what standpoint you're looking at it from. So here's what he means. Suppose this is a dream now. And you look at the dream and you say the world is satyam. Yeah, the world is, why? Because it's all created, it's all there. It's satyam, it's created by someone. And my thoughts about this dream are mithya. Because my thoughts just come and go, right? They depend on the presence of these satyam dream objects. Follow the logic so far? But now, what happens when I wake up? Now, the external, which was considered as satyam, is now also considered as mithya, and mithya thoughts are still mithya, the mithya thoughts of the dream. But now, in my waking, I do the exact same thing. I look at the external world and I say it is satyam, and my thoughts about this world, this waking, is mithya. Now, how do you wake up from that idea? How do you also mithyanize this world? How do you mithyanize this waking state? Rather than waking up, you have to apply a pramana through a satya-mithya relationship. And argument number 2 to counter the objector. Suppose argument number 1 was a little bit kind of tricky. How would you argue second way? Well, you would say it doesn't really matter whether there is a subject or an object, whether there's an external world or an internal world. That doesn't matter, whether it's in a dream state or in the waking state. You know why? Because ultimately, whether you're in the dream state, what is manifesting that dream state? Your mind, isn't it? What is your mind made of? Reduced into knowledge and power. Okay, so ultimately it's just knowledge and power manifesting as the dream. What about this state? You reduce anything. The mind reduced into knowledge power, the world reduced into knowledge power. And what's the truth of knowledge and power? It is one and the same consciousness. So therefore, both states have no reality over the other. Because they're both reducible, negatable, falsifiable through a pramana. How do you reduce a dream? By waking up. How do you reduce the waking? Through a satya-mithya relationship. If you can reduce it, it's not absolutely real. That's the conclusion. Number 1, if it's drishya, if it's seen, it is unreal. If it's prayojanata, that means it has a usefulness. Is your body useful? Hopefully. Yeah. Is your brain useful? Yes. Is the pot useful? Yes. Is the cloud useful? Yes. Is the bacteria useful? Yes. Is the germ useful? Yes. Is fire useful? Yes. Is space useful? Yes. Is anything useful? Anything you point to? In some way, yes. If it's useful, it is mithya. Third one is, if it's not true from another standpoint, it's mithya. Is your body, physical body, true from the standpoint of the waking? Well, if you're in the waking, where is your body? There's no connection to it. Sorry, if you're in a dream, there's no connection to your waking body, is there? So I'll say that again. Is your physical body true from the standpoint of the dream? No. Therefore, it is reducible from another standpoint. Is your thought about yourself in the waking, is that still true in the dream? Suppose you have extreme, like introvert. I'm an introverted person. Are you still introverted in the dream? No. Therefore, any kind of maybe yes, right? But whatever, right? So if you are, if it's reducible from the standpoint of the deep sleep or whatever, it was never true to begin with. So I want you to think about what are kind of impressions or conclusions you formed about yourself in the past. Think of them right now. Put them in front of you, on the palm of your hand. Every conclusion I've ever thought about me, who I am, what I'm not, what I've learned, what people told me, what they refused to tell me, every anger, every hate, every joy, every epiphany, every idea, everything I thought I was that I wasn't, everything I've seen by anyone that's ever shown me, ever experienced, all of this, I put it in my palm, I close my palm, I say thank you Mithya, and I send it back to Bhagavan. Okay? It was never mine. If it's a matter of inside and out, that means there's a feeling involved. If you ever felt like you were inside something, like I'm inside a nice warm blanket, that warm blanket was Mithya too. I'm now protected by safety. Oh, now I feel like I am liberated. Liberation, Mithya too.
Is consciousness then useful because of consciousness everything lights up? So for the Mithya world, it's useful that consciousness is there.
I'm going to challenge that and say that would only be true if there are two things, consciousness and the world. Because usefulness is only in reference to two objects different from each other. But everything is consciousness. So therefore you cannot make that statement if all there is here is one. Right? Flour is useful, sun is useful to the flower, and flour is useful to our digestion. They're three different things. But all that is here is consciousness, so in that sense, the statement doesn't hold up. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.